Oh.
There he goes. All right, guys, welcome back to Grit Gym Live. We have Kellie Hart with us today. I'm really excited to have her on. She's been a lifter for how long have you been lifting anyway, Kellie?
I started like really consistently going about 8 years ago, but I've been an athlete my whole life. There's like a zoo going on behind me right now.
That's funny that before we actually got on here, silent. He was so well, or she maybe. And then all of a sudden, like as soon as it went 3, 2, 1, bang.
Just to preface, Adam was prepping this call and my gardener shows up. I work at home and my dogs, they love barking. So I'm like, great, this is going to be a fun episode.
It works.
Yeah.
It's like production value or whatever they call
exactly. Keep things interesting.
Yeah, seriously.
So back on track, yeah, I started lifting, really getting into it about 8 years ago. I started competing in figure, the whole, like, I had my kids, I let myself go. I wanted to get back. Initially, I'm going to be honest, it wasn't the athleticism. I was an athlete my whole life. I didn't like who I was. I didn't like my body. I didn't like what I had become. But over the years, it turned more into like honing into my natural athleticism. And, just kind of playing around in a gym and having fun with it.
Yeah. No, it's interesting. Like you wrote that post this morning and I identified with that on a crazy level. Cause I mean, I go back to like when I first started lifting, it was like it was like I was fighting to change what I hated about myself. Like I spent the majority of my life hating who I was, not to get like TMI or anything, but like lifting was this, like, I was driven by what I hated about myself to change it instead of driven by loving myself to get to like what my potential could possibly be, And like, so when you wrote that post, I was like, that's awesome. Cause what you guys don't know, Kellie wrote a post where she had one picture where obviously a bombshell and she's super gorgeous anyway, but then another picture right beside it where what were you? You were like 20 plus pounds larger, but you're still just gorgeous. You're still like, you see your abs, you see it like your muscles, you look great. And it's 23 pounds more than in the original picture over the course of like, I don't remember how many years it was, but what you talked about with like perfection and what you were fighting with it really resonated with me. I thought it was a very powerful post. It was really cool.
Yeah, and it's interesting, because growing up, a lot of times we're taught that perfectionism is, just chasing just greatness, but it's not. It's really like a shell. It's like a mechanism to hide your shame and guilt. And I went through a lot of trauma when I was younger, and I carried it with me for a really long time. And even like I have a master's degree, and for the longest time, I was still ashamed that I didn't finish high school past 10th grade. Like I have 2 degrees, but I dropped out of high school. So for probably up until like 3 years ago, I still saw myself as a high school dropout. And there's just so many things that kind of stick with you from a very young age that mold and shape who you are, and you develop these behaviors. So for me, growing up, I was like a super driven athlete. And it wasn't necessarily that, I wanted to become a professional athlete. That wasn't something that was instilled in me, but it was something that I could control. And it was a way for me to deal with my trauma and my shame, is I had this control mechanism of sports. And so that post that I made, I'm going to put it on my Fit Thrive Facebook page as well. That was on my personal page. But when I first started bodybuilding, like you said, like I hated my body. I hated who I was from the inside out. So again, I sort of honed into that, like, well, I know that I can control this. I can control what happens in the gym, what I put in my mouth.
Right.
And so bodybuilding to me sort of tapped back into that perfectionism. And then 8 years later, I still love lifting, but it's all about play and just like really taking ownership of who I am and letting go and releasing versus controlling.
Yeah. Yeah, I couldn't, the commonality there is crazy because like that's how sports was for me. I didn't really have like this grandeur thought of playing professional sports, but like when I went out on a football field, I could become somebody that I couldn't be in regular life. You know, I could like, it was like a release. Like I could put all my energy into slamming my body into somebody else as hard as I possibly could and figure out like, I'm good at this. This feels awesome. Feels way better than never feeling like you're good enough, never feeling like you're attractive, never feeling like you belong, never feeling like, you know, like that bleeds into everything else that you do. So sports kind of became that, and bodybuilding kind of became that, but it was all just like what you say, like a facade. It's just a front. It was all bullshit. But like, I think if you have the courage, like obviously you have to look like kind of introspectively and focus internally, then you can see that like beauty transcends, and once you start taking care of who you are down deep, then it kind of comes out to the rest of the world. I don't know, maybe that's not what you found, but I kind of was babbling a little bit, but sorry.
No, absolutely. And that's exactly what happened. Like when I look at those two pictures side by side, like honestly, I looked, I'm 30, I'll be 38 like very soon. And the original picture I posted, I was 30. And, you know, I've always looked young for my age, or when I was older, like I looked older for my age, but like I look so much younger and healthier now at 38 than I did at 30. And I think a lot of it is that I'm nurturing myself inside a lot more. And you just don't realize like how much bottling up all of those internal pressures and the guilt and the shame and the things that you're trying to hide about yourself, like it ages you tremendously. And
it's exactly.
It is. It's like you're just constantly and people would look at me, you know, like once I started really coming out about my sharing stories and pieces of my life and who I am, people would kind of look at me and they're like, yeah, like finally, like we knew like this was in you and we were just waiting to hear it, you know, versus like me being like, Susie home. And that's always a scary thing, right? Is once you start like coming out with your stories and okay, well, I'm not really this perfect like Susie homemaker, you know, with my robotic children and my life is so perfect. Once you start once you like open up the closet and everyone can see like the mess that is your life that you've sort of shoved in there, you know, people are like, cool, like, thank you for that. Like, I knew you were human. I was just waiting for you to show me the human side of you. So it's really refreshing. Obviously it's terrifying. Like I've been divorced for 1.5 years and I didn't start talking about it until like a month ago. You know, people started catching on a little bit, but I was like terrified. Like, first off, I don't really talk about my personal life a lot, but I was just terrified of people seeing me as a failure because I was together with my ex-husband for 18 years. You know, like, oh, well, she can't hold her stuff together. So.
Yeah, that's interesting. But like everybody goes through that kind of stuff. Like everybody's had a break. Everybody's had ups and downs. Everybody's had some kind of trauma in their life. You know, rock bottom is someone told me this one time. They said everybody's rock bottom is the same. It's the rock bottom.
Yeah.
Like your level might be here and your level might be, you know, you might land on sand and you might land on water. You might land on concrete. Doesn't matter. It's all everybody's rock bottom is still rock bottom. It's like, do you have the courage to stand back up? Do you have the courage to, you know, show the world like this is who I am, you know? And I agree with you. I think that's super terrifying to do.
Yeah.
Especially when you
go ahead.
We are. Like when you're looked to like we are for like this, like, oh, their health is so on point. They're strong minded. They're, you know, like they have all these, like they have all their ducks in a row. It's like, well, we make mistakes. Like professionals make mistakes. We make errors and we learn from them just like everybody else too.
Yeah. And it's nice. It's really nice to share things like that. I actually have a wonderful coach. He's not necessarily he is a business coach in a sense, but he also sort of incorporates like, all right, well, let's look at your life and see why your business is a mess type thing. And he's really been encouraging me to publish, because I do a lot of personal writing that I share with him. And the braver I get, and I really don't post it like on Facebook or my blog, like I'll send these personal stories to my email list. I just have so many people responding like, thank you. I needed to hear that today. Or, oh my gosh, I'm going through this thing right now and I thought I was alone.
Yeah.
It's so refreshing to
For
just
real.
like unveil it and let it be out there and just like let it exist for no other reason than letting it exist. And
Yeah.
the impact that it has on other people is sort of, you know, like the ripple effect. But that's not why you should share. You know, you should share, just to release. I've been doing that a lot lately, and it's been very profound.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
What I'm in the last portions of editing the book that I wrote, and along the journey of writing that book, like I think like I started with I was going to write it and I was like pushing all this information out to everybody else, and then along the way I'm like, this isn't for everybody else. I'm not solving anybody else's problem. I'm solving my own problems. I'm writing everything that helped me along the way. I'm writing, you know, this book is just as much for me as it is for everybody else. All the writing, all these videos that I do, they're like, this is how I solved this, or this is how I came to be, you know, like whatever it is. They're much more, just as much for me as they are for everybody else, I think, in a lot of ways. And the courage to be able to do that and what you get out of it is amazing. So I like respect and appreciation for you to do that. And
and that's always a really interesting dynamic as a writer or a content creator. It's almost like that moment when you let go and you're like, all right, I need to do this for me. Like, I don't care if anybody buys it. I don't care if they read it. I need to do it for me. Then it's just like everything is orchestrated and it starts flowing and coming out, and you say and share things that you never imagined possible. And it's a beautiful process, and people appreciate that much more. Like, they can really read through, like, you know, if you're not being authentic, and they can read when you're trying to like write to an audience or a crowd or whatever. Like, there's a huge difference. So I'm really glad that you discovered that in the process. And it probably changed your work a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I've written, like, you know what it's like you like if you process by writing, then you've written mountains and mountains and mountains of pieces that you've never put out for the world to see. Yep. And so you end up with all this information. And so that's basically all it is. Just shove that into a book and call it good, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's amazing. But kind of interesting. I found it really interesting when you say that other people noticed this stuff in you. They're like, we're just waiting for that to come out. That was one thing where I would have said that it was the complete opposite. I don't think anybody knew that all of this was going on within me, the stuff that you talked about. And one of the things that you notice between when you say the first picture of that post and the current picture of that post, between 30 and 38 years old, I think is what you said, is like, most people would look at that first post that you did and be like, she's gorgeous. She has nothing, like, that girl has to love her body, has to, you know, like, she's got it all together. And so I think there's an extra difficulty there that people don't want to acknowledge, where, like, how are you supposed to admit that you have these internal struggles going on when on the outside you look perfect and you look like you have it all, and you know, like when I was in college, I was 6'4". I'm on the football team. I have 4% or 4.5% body fat. I weigh 225 pounds, and I thought I was fat. I thought all these bad things about myself. So it's kind of interesting, like, when you have it all like that, and you still got all this internal stuff going on. It's interesting to hear you talk about getting past that to where you are now. Yeah,
and I think. Like, for your instance and mine as well, is externally people look at us and they're like, what do you have to complain about? You're perfect.
Yeah,
but I think that we tend to project the things we don't like internally about ourselves externally. So, like, for you looked in the mirror and you saw body fat, where it was really like something internally that you were dealing with that you just didn't want to face, or maybe you hadn't recognized yet. And it's interesting because I put a variation of that same post on my Instagram, and I did have one woman comment, and she's like, well, it's really easy for someone like you to love yourself and be beautiful. And it's externally, you know, I've always been a fairly good looking human, but internally I felt extremely ugly. So a lot of times people don't realize, the difference, and there's a lot of people that, they've always just felt completely beautiful inside and out. And, there's different variations where people love themselves inside, but they don't love themselves outside. And there's just all these different elements, but just to be able to recognize those things within yourself. And, it's always a work in progress. So it's never about okay, well now I love myself completely and wholly. It's always just this work in progress of taking these micro steps of just self-improvement.
Yeah, you're never going to do it perfect. And even if you could, would you want to? Why would, if it was perfect, you'd never learn anything new. If it was perfect, you'd never have a surprise. If it was perfect, you'd I don't know, it'd just be boring. It wouldn't even be fun. And the errors along the way and the imperfections are kind of what, if you look at people's faces, and then it's the imperfections that end up making you beautiful anyway, that make you unique, that make you who you are. So embracing those, I think it's a big deal.
Yeah. And that's what I've really tapped into with lifting and strength training, is the fact that you're never going to be good at it, right? There's always things that you have to tweak and work on and tap into. And, whether it's getting stronger or leaner or working on imbalances or mobility or, structural biomechanics, there's always things, no matter how proficient you become, you're never going to be great, right? So it's every time you step into the gym, it's a new experience and you're working on something new, and you can always vary it. For the longest time, I was chasing a 350 deadlift. Well, I hit that, and then I felt completely torn up and beat up all the time. So I switched, and I'm I'm going to work on my athleticism. And then, now I'm more working on bodybuilding stuff. So it's every time you step in there, it can be any experience that you want it to be, because you're always going to have to improve something.
Yeah. Do you think that that's important to to have a specific goal when you walk in, or do you think just push yourself in there and get something done?
It depends. I mean, yeah, I don't always have a goal when I lift, and then I'll fall in and out of it. Sometimes I just lift, just to stay in shape or just to maintain my sanity or whatever. And other times I'm all right, I want to do a powerlifting meet or bodybuilding contest or whatever, or, I want to do a Spartan race or, it depends. But if you're going through some hard stuff and, you're using it just for stress release or to get off the couch or, whatever, and you just show up, then that's good enough. So it varies from day to day. And, some days we're sitting there the last thing I want to do is work out, but then you show up and you have a crazy awesome workout. So it's sometimes it's good to let go of those goals and just show up and just play around. I agree.
Yeah, I think it's really important. Having a goal is important, but also just pushing yourself out the door, but also if you really need to just stress relief and throw a medicine ball at a wall, then that's cool too.
Yeah, totally. Or you might show up with a plan, and then once you start training, you don't feel it. So then whatever, you ditch the plan, you do body weight stuff, you play basketball, you get on a bike, whatever. So it's good to have a plan, and it's good to not have a plan too.
Yeah, I completely agree. Because really, what are we doing? For the majority of people, what are they really doing? They want to feel good. They want to get their heart rate up. They want to get their muscles pumped a little bit. And by pumped, I mean get the blood flow running. Want to get some strength in. We just want to move around, make your body feel better, so that you can do all the other things in your life
exactly
better. So what's the point in trying to structure yourself down and plan yourself out to this crazy level of if I try to do that, I used to do that, it drives me nuts. And eventually just let's just go, just get out the door and go do something.
Yeah, totally. And, some people really thrive on that. And I've had clients that, they've been paying me for 3 years, and my gosh, they probably have as much knowledge about fitness as I do because I've been working with them for so long. But they still hire me because they like having that structure and they like to not think about it.
Right.
And, you know, some people just it gives them that satisfaction, that comfort of knowing what to do when they get to the gym, because regardless of how well versed you are in the gym, it still can be pretty intimidating. You know, even if if you know how to use all the equipment, if you've been working out for a while, sometimes it really is scary to walk into a gym and not have a plan for some people. And so, you know, I guess every situation's different, but I don't think you should stay out of the gym just because you don't have a plan.
Yeah, no, 100%. Like just getting yourself out the door, just getting yourself going, just pushing yourself to start is many times the hardest part. Unintentional rhyme there, but yeah.
I like it.
What for? Before I forget, how do people follow you? Where can they find Kellie Hart?
So my Instagram is Kellie Davis Fit. And then I have a Facebook page. You can look up Fit Thrive, FITTHRIVE.
Cool.
And I'm not huge on social. I do tend to communicate with my email list a lot more. So if you go to fitthrive.com, right now you can actually sign up. I have a free glutes challenge. So you sign up and you get like a whole video workout series, 10-day series. And then I do follow-up communications. Then that's where I do like a lot of my personal chats with my clients, and I'm always pumping out videos and stuff like that. So
awesome. And spoken like a true trainer, using glutes instead of butt, right? So GLUTS, and then what is it? Glutes challenge? Is that what it was?
Yeah. Just if you go to fitthrive.com, it'll pop up, and you can just type in your email and you can start building your booty.
And then tell them about your product that you're going to launch pretty soon.
Yeah. So kind of a funny story. So I have a program coming out. It's actually in a soft launch. I ran a beta test group that did really well. And now I'm doing a soft launch to a small list. And it's called 60 Days to an Epic Ass. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm actually like going there. I'm titling a program Epic Ass. But being like an athlete my whole life, I've sustained a lot of like minor injuries, nothing ever major except for, I don't know, I'd say like a year and a half, 2 years ago, I completely ruptured my ACL and I tore, my medial meniscus is like pretty much torn in half. And I already have like runner's knee and all sorts of stuff going on. So I went to an orthopedic surgeon and I was like scheduled to have everything repaired. And it just totally freaked me out because I've been living with it for almost 2 years. And it's been a little bit inhibiting, but it's kind of funny with injuries like that because some people, they're just out, like they can't even walk. And I didn't know. I literally had it for a year and a half and I had no idea. I'm like, my knee feels weird.
If you're strong, which if you have a 350-pound deadlift, then your hamstring's probably pretty strong. So
yeah. My hamstrings they're ridiculously like they're probably too strong and too tight. But so you know, I called him and I opted out of the surgery, and he's like, all right, if you're not going to do this, you really need to like chill out, like no more sports, which I hated. I wasn't going to run track, like dancing's kind of out of the question because anything lateral, rotational, like, you know, my knee could give out. And he's like, no more heavy squatting, lunges, stuff like that. And I was devastated. I was crushed. I was like, well, now what am I going to do with my life? And I had like a little bit of a pity party. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to make this fun. And I'm going to build the biggest, roundest butt that I can possibly build. Like that was my goal. So I just started experimenting a lot. And I was still doing like full body workouts, you know, and instead of like leg extensions, squats, lunges, I was doing leg press. And I was just finding like all these variations to where I could still train effectively, still have fun in the gym, still build muscle, but not like totally screw up my knee, as if it wasn't already totally screwed up. But so I started going through this program, and all my clients and my workout site members, they were watching me. They're like, holy cow, like, what are you doing? You look better than you've ever looked. Like, I want in on your secret. I'm like, you know, because I'm injured, I'm just trying to build an epic ass. And they're like, oh, is this going to be a program? Is that what you're going to name it? And so that's kind of the story behind it. And they like absolutely love that. And they're like, you have to name the program this. So anyway, I built this program. It's a hypertrophy program, 6 days a week. You're hitting the glutes like crazy all the time, but it's a full body program. And I did a beta test with like 85 women, and they all saw astounding results in 60 days. So my soft launch is going on right now. And then once we work out all the kinks, because I had an app built, and technology is always fun. So once we work out all the kinks in the app and everything, it's going to come to market.
Awesome.
That should be happening in like the next month or so.
That's really exciting. That's cool.
Yeah.
And you even guts to give it a crazy name.
I know. Like, why not? Let's just do it. See what happens. So far, it's gotten really good feedback. But some ladies are like, well, I feel really weird when I open up my program at the gym and it says epic ass. And I'm like, just own it. Whatever.
Exactly.
Just own it.
Like when people get offended by like cursing or anything, any of that kind of stuff, I'm just kind of like who cares? Like it's just not that big of a deal. And I was like that forever, and partially because my kids were younger, but I would never swear. And I didn't grow up like my parents didn't swear or anything, but when I got, teens and 20s, like I had a pretty bad mouth. And then when I became a mom, like I stopped swearing, and then I would say like really stupid things, like instead of swearing. And when my kids got older, they're like, Mom, just say it. You sound dumb. So it's like, I don't know. I mean, it's good to swear as long as it's not consistent, because, it puts good emphasis on what you're trying to say. Yeah. So, I remember in college, our football coaches just breathed the F word. It was just like every other word. It was my favorite when they would separate it with some other word. Like they'd say, we curse on the show. So like they'd say re-fucking-diculous.
Yeah.
So I'd be like, we'd be getting like cussed out, and everybody, and I'm trying not to giggle in the group.
Yeah. It sort of becomes innocuous after a while. It's just like it loses its effect the more you say it.
It really does. Yeah, epic ass, I think, sounds like an awesome product. From what you said about it sounds even better than just like the title says a lot, and then like everything you've explained about it sounds even better. But guys, if you go over to what's the website that they can
FITTHRIVE.com, FitThrive. So then you can opt into the free workout. It's a 10-day workout challenge. And once you're on that list, like you'll get updates on program releases. I put out weekly free workouts. So all sorts of goodies there.
That's awesome. I really like that. That's cool. Well, Kellie, thanks for being on the show. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day, and your dog did really well. A lot better than
the gardener left, so it was like good timing. I was a little nervous. They had a good show opener, and then we were done.
Yeah, one and done. He just that's what I said earlier. I just he just wanted to be part of the show.
Exactly. He's tired of me always stealing the limelight.
That's funny. Well, thank you for being on the show. Hopefully we can have you back sometime. If you guys can go over to Kellie's website and to follow her on Instagram, go ahead and do that. Otherwise, we're going to sign off. But thank you for being here. Really appreciate it. Thank you, Kellie. I really appreciate it. Yeah,
absolutely. Thanks again. It's been fun.
Yeah. All right. We'll see you guys later.